Hi, guys, and welcome back to another One Step podcast. I'm Dr. Jozelle Miller here in lovely St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know it has been a few weeks that we have been off, but I am so sorry for that. But nonetheless, this story is going to be so enriching, you would not have even realized you have been gone. All right, so I want to encourage you now to call your friends and your family, your loved ones, whomever you think is going to benefit from hearing about the lives of our special guest today. This couple is one that I'm pretty sure persons know their faces, know their names, so you're going to want to be here to hear this story. Just come and be a part of this conversation. We'll be right back. We're going to take a few minutes just to big up our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
As you navigate your path through life, all that is required is that you take one step at a time. Though hard it may be at times, each day, be committed to show up strong. Some days your strength can look different to other days. Just know this, that whenever you're at your worst, try to look your best. Dress up and face the world. That's the first step towards moving forward. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one simple step. Lao Tzu.
All right, so when we started this season 2, we are looking at love and relationships. One of the things we highlighted was that we realized there has been a downturn as it relates to marriages within St. Vincent, to the extent that persons are saying marriages don't work, love isn't the thing anymore. Persons are just simply okay in going about their lives doing the casual thing. But we want to reinforce the importance of marriage and family as the bedrock, the foundation of our society. So it's important for us to understand that marriage in itself is something that you have to work towards. And it is not just about the wedding, but there's life after the wedding. And today, my special guest is Pastor Roy and Keisha George.
Good evening.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Yes. But I must say, I know Keisha probably more than I know
Yes.
Pastor Roy.
That's okay.
And over the years, having interacted with Keisha and see how she moves, she's a very busy woman, and she navigates quite a lot in terms of family life and church and all of these things. And I can just imagine that all of that basically at some point might even take a toll on an individual. And it's important to know that, even with the individual schedules and your own dreams, aspirations, when you come together as a couple, you have to figure out how to balance it all.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. Now, tell us, how did you meet? How did this romance start? How did we get to where we are at now?
Of course. We met in church
Uh-huh.
and we were friends for 7 years before anything like attraction. No, that's not, I'm lying. I was always attracted to him. So we met and I always wanted to be an attractive young man, but we were good friends. We were in drama together, we were in youth activities together. And I was in Trinidad studying at the Bible school, and one, and I know it's a very, very weird thing to say, but this is my genuine experience. One night I was praying at home, and I was hoping to come to St. Vincent. And right at home, I heard the Lord say to me, I've only heard that voice 3 times in my life so far. But I heard the Lord say to me, when you get to St. Vincent, the boy is going to talk to you, and when he speaks to you, say yes. And
Okay.
this is probably in early December. I came to St. Vincent at the end of the year, so into the new year. 4 years there, I think I came
Uh-huh.
into the new year. And on the 5th of January,
He spoke to
he
you.
spoke to me, and I said to him, "Well, I'm not gonna be one of those young ladies who chase."
She didn't say yes. She was not
But it was a yes. It was definitely gonna be a yes. And 8 months after that, we married.
So 7 years friendship,
Yeah.
and within that 7 years, there was no, hey, let's go out,
No.
let's nothing.
Except it was for like in a group
Uh-huh.
or just casual
Right,
talking and so on, because I really cherish the friendship.
right.
She is somebody that I like.
Mhm.
One of my hindrances was that she was so younger than me.
Ah,
Yeah, so
okay.
I wasn't like I was still a younger.
When we met, I was 18.
Yeah.
You're 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was like 20.
Yeah, in college.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in college and so on.
Yeah.
So because of that gap, it
Uh-huh.
wasn't initially like that. But as time went along, and the Lord opened my eyes.
Your eyes.
Yes.
Your eyes. Your eyes.
to see what was in front of me all the time.
Well, I want to zone in on something there. Number one, the fact that you said that you were friends and you didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can literally be in a friendship with someone and part of you is saying, boy, this is my spouse, this is the person. But then there's that fear that says, boy,
If you put that question,
if you put that there and it doesn't work out, everything changes. Were you scared? Were you apprehensive? How did you know for a fact that, boy, you know what, this is a plunge I want to take?
I really think it's a matter of obedience.
Obedience.
And yes, the hint of not really anxiety, but you're wondering, is this going to take a turn for you better, or is it going to take a turn for you worse? You know, but then I think if you're obedient to what the Holy Spirit is saying to you, and you're walking with Him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, He leads you right. He never leads you wrong. And even if you take that plunge and it wasn't meant to be, I don't think the relationship, if it's a genuine, if you approach it with a genuine intention, I don't think it would break.
Right.
You know?
But then there's always the question, how do you know?
Yeah, you don't. I don't think you really do until you do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a matter of being obedient and doing what you, taking your responsibility serious and then allowing the Lord to do the rest.
Do the rest.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so based on our story, it comes across as a super spiritual.
Yeah,
experience.
it is. It
And
sounds
it is
so.
like that. And the truth of the matter is, yes, like I said, you all heard me just say, I heard the Lord say this to me. And yet, when He spoke to me, I was like, I'm not going to change it. But sometimes you have to be willing to take a risk
Yeah.
and be willing to give something a try. And fear is a part of life. It's
Yeah.
normal, and anxiety and so forth. But if it is you don't push beyond that fear, I think you say it all the time to the audience, do it scared.
Yeah, good scare.
Do it scared and getting, as long as you keep yourself within safe boundaries, when it comes emotionally, physically, safe boundaries, then you explore and you never know what could happen.
So at any point were you guys praying about each other or was it?
Well, I wouldn't say praying about her.
Uh-huh. But the
But-
spouse.
Yeah, but the spouse.
Okay.
And then it's like clearing away all the clouds and then you see exactly what it was.
So I want to ask this question because this is something I hear a lot too, especially from Christian young people and other persons. Is it best to ask a general question to God, like, send me a spouse, these are the characteristics, or do you want to zone in? Because someone said, if you zone in, it's like you're telling God what you want, as opposed to God directing you where you should go. So what are your thoughts on that?
You see, I don't believe in this super spiritual,
Yeah.
and there's one person that is. I think the Lord knows what we need even more than we think we know what we need.
Okay.
And and a lot of the times, I believe that we trust in our own understanding.
Yeah.
We quote the scripture all the time, trust in the Lord with all their heart, but when it comes to practice and working it out, we trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And we say, oh, I'm looking for this particular type of person, and then you see somebody who you think fits the bill,
Yeah.
and then you invest
Uh-huh.
in that person, and then it is not what you think
Right,
it should be.
right.
So when we go to God, I believe you pray and ask God for bringing needs before God. And God who knows what you need, I think He and in obedience. And then if you see somebody that you like, go and talk to them.
Yeah.
Get to know them. I mean, the Lord ain't going to drop somebody in your lap. You know, you get to know them and you talk, you have a casual conversation and see where it goes. And then if your intentions are pure, I think it will work.
I want to add to that. You shouldn't just be praying for a spouse. You should be praying that you are prepared for a spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Pray for yourself. Pray and ask the Lord to prepare you. Teach. Look, search in me, Lord, what needs to be removed before I get connected to somebody else.
Right.
So that I don't bring somebody down instead of lift them up and I connect with them.
Yeah.
So it's about, yes, you will be asking God to provide you a spouse, but am I ready for that spouse when the spouse comes?
And I like that because oftentimes we look outward. This is what I want, but we're not looking to ourselves to say, okay, because you know the big question, what are you bringing to the table? You know, everybody wants to know what someone else is bringing to the table. But what about you? Whether or not you're even worthy to sit at that table is another question, right? But before we take another break, you mentioned that you guys hung out in groups. And in our previous interviews as well, both parties would have said the same thing. How important do you think groups or group dating is to help you to really clear your mind, understand who you are, and you know how to navigate in terms of looking for someone?
Okay, so I hope I remember this when my son gets engaged. Because they're growing so fast, all of our children. But I really think there's safety in getting to know a group of people. And let me tell you this. So in the group we had multiple single young men. And we had multiple single young men. We were all doing drama together. We saw what each other was good at, what we were bad at. When the person had an attitude, you're able to look at things kind of objectively,
right,
without it being a focus one-on-one,
right,
when the pressure could build up.
Yeah.
And I think having the group around, it also helps in accountability.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it helps in counsel.
So
there's a difference in accountability and counsel. The counsel is other people will observe how you interact with that individual.
Right.
So in the group we had one person who noticed that Laura and I got along. We all work really well together. And we had other people from the outside of our group who were paying attention. But as young people, we senior members of the children, we all work well together. I remember someone said to me, "You all work well together. I wonder if you all like each other." And then another one of the ladies said, No, she's not ready yet. She's too young. And which is fine, we respected that because those are people who were invested in our lives as individuals. But that same person who said she's too young was one of the persons who was happiest when we eventually came together.
Okay.
But you see, you had counseling people who understood where you are in your growth, in your area of maturity, I should say, and they were able to tell you, okay, take your time, wait and watch. And then you had the friends around you who would make sure that you're not doing anything inappropriate, you're not speaking inappropriately, you're not carrying yourself inappropriately. So that's the accountability part of it. So accountability and counsel was helpful.
And you see, I find in today's world, we live so isolated.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to, this is my business, I don't want nobody to know my business.
Because trust, they say trust is a big thing.
Yeah, but listen, there's always safety numbers. Always safety numbers. When a lion is hunted, the lion don't ever go at the crowd and zebra. You look at the one who's isolated and lagging behind, and you attack that person because that's easiest.
Right.
And so in you, because and younger you find people, everybody's so focused on getting intimate so quickly. You know, I said, what's the rush with young people? They say, oh, this is my ex. I say, oh, you have an ex?
Listen, people have ex at age 10 and 11, they have ex.
They have an ex in the
and so without before you become friends,
Yes.
you're in a relationship.
Right.
And you can't love somebody who you don't like.
Exactly.
You know, and it's important that you get to like the person, like
somebody.
being around the person.
Like what
You
they
like
stand for.
conversations with the person, and then you realize that the love will go from there.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. I mean, we're off to an excellent start. And one of the things that Pastor Roy mentioned, obedience, because even with what you said, Keisha, you can have accountability, you can have counsel, but if you're not willing to listen and be obedient, is something else.
That's right.
And part of the challenge we have right now is that we are in a microwave society.
That's right.
Everything is too fast.
That's right.
And then we get clouded in our minds to figure out, is it love? Is it lust? Is it attraction? Is it infatuation? What exactly is it? We are speaking with Pastor Roy and Keisha George. And listen, I'm already so invested in this conversation. So we heard that she was 18 when Pastor Roy locked eyes. He locked eyes at 18. And then it took 7 years of being around each other in groups and interacting. And then the Lord would have spoken to Keisha. Here we are now that he has made his move, and in 8 months, was it? Then you were married in 8 months. So before we go into the actual marriage and where we are now, when you spoke about the age difference, that is usually a challenge for some persons, that you should marry somebody you're the same age, maybe 1 or 2 years different. What's your story like with the age difference? How did you manage it?
The thing is, because we were friends, it didn't really register as a date when we just met.
Right.
So there was not much of a challenge when it comes to age difference, because we're both the oldest for our mothers.
Right.
So he has the experience of being the older brother, I have the experience of being the older sister. So there's a level of responsibility that I would have carried, and I guess maturity that I would have had to kind of keep up with that type of interaction. And then I would have been involved in different leadership things. So I understood what it meant to be responsible, to be accountable. I had that understanding. So our age difference wasn't major at the point of time of our marriage and our showing our interest and stuff like that. Only there's a serious difference when I was 18.
Right. As I said before, that was one of my kind of influences, because I liked her. She's a beautiful young woman.
Yeah.
And I remember the very first time I saw her. She was coming down the aisle of the church, white
Talk to us
suit.
now. Talk to us now.
Yeah, white skirt and blouse. I said, wow.
Oh,
yeah,
I remember that. And you know, men don't remember.
No, I remember that.
Why? Okay.
But then
I don't even remember it.
So initially, that was my kind of hindrance from approaching her in that way. But I said this is and then too, she was a new Christian.
Right,
you know, so I said, oh, okay. Yeah. I don't want to hinder her growth, her spiritual growth, her spiritual
walk. But were you worried about the people say? What people would say? Whether
not
in
really,
the church?
Not really. It was me. It was me. It was my kind of holding back, because I say it made sense to allow her to go. It's a spiritual day. I can't go and give me that spiritual benefit.
Spiritual pedophilia. Robbing the kid.
That's an interesting concept, Mr. Jones. Interesting.
No, because I think because you said talk about age difference.
Yeah.
The main thing is maturity.
Yeah.
I believe people should get married.
Okay.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
But then people should be mature.
Right.
You know, and the problem is you can have a 40-year-old man who's immature, who's not ready for marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
You understand? But then you can have a 21-year-old
who
fully mature, knows what he wants, knows his purpose, going in the law, and is ready to take that step. And those are the things I encourage.
So what area of maturity do you think is more important? Spiritual maturity or general maturity with life, being exposed to different things in life?
Both
Personally, right, I believe if you're spiritually mature or getting to spiritual maturity, the general maturity comes.
Okay.
Um, um, Whereas you can be mature in terms of, okay, people look at maturity is that you have a career, you have you know what you're about, you're ambitious. It don't mean that you're mature.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But then one of the things, if we know who God is to us, what God wants from us, what God wants me to do, then that filters down into general life.
Right.
And people see it, and the spouse will see it, and others will know that you're ready.
So how long have you been married now?
This is 20,
13 years.
going on 14 this year.
August will be 14.
August 14 years. So you made your move in 8 months. Now some persons might say, boy, that was quick. Like
It was gonna be 6
It
months.
was, yeah, it would have been
Uh-huh.
6
It
months.
would have
Yes,
been 6
but my
months.
mother had to come from Trinidad,
Yeah.
so and she didn't get her vacation time until August. Yeah.
Why so quick?
Because we know that is what we wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
I personally, I don't like the idea of people getting engaged. And 2 years
Long,
after, 3
yeah.
years after, 5 years after.
10 years. We know somebody who was engaged for 10 years.
You know, I mean,
And then and that's all it was, an engagement.
the purpose of engagement or the purpose of I think,
Courting is courting. You say when you know that you're heading towards
okay,
marriage.
that's what they say. I mean, the terminologies are different in some
Yeah.
people, but I don't believe, especially as Christians,
Yeah.
we should engage in personal relationship with the other sex unless we know that this is somebody.
To be purposeful about
And
it.
it don't take long for you to realize that this is somebody who.
Pastor Roy, you're opening a can of worms. You're opening a can of worms.
I know.
Because that goes back to the question, how do you know? There are some females who will say that they know for a fact this is the person. But the males, the males are the ones on the fence saying like, no. I don't, you know, the in and out, the indecision.
You know, Dr. Miller, I really believe it. I think that a lot of it comes from our relationship with God. I don't want to sound too super spiritual.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes from our relationship with God. Because what happens is that guys in particular, they want to play the field.
Right.
You know, they want to make sure they cover all the bases. They're not taking out one or foregoing one, and next thing you hear, they make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And it goes to your relationship with the Lord. I mean, you know, see, that is what you want.
Right.
You know, and so
I was slightly probably an addition, not necessarily from take. I think for males, every man that I know that is married and they have an enjoyable marital relationship, every one of them told me they knew within a few weeks. That they knew that this person was somebody who they could get married to. Not necessarily that they were going to get married to them, but somebody they could get married to. Somebody who they saw, because I think, and I could be wrong, men when they want to settle down, they look for people or for a woman who they admire, not just for them,
Right.
but who they think can handle situations in life and who they see to observe.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I think we are more into the personal admiration,
Right.
and how the person makes me feel.
Right.
That's how I would know. But I think males have a different perspective. When they know when a woman is worthy of that type of investment.
Right.
This is based on the conversation I would have had with my brothers-in-law, friends who are married. They know when this woman is worthy of that investment. It may not be for him in particular, but they know how to treat her like a marriageable person. And then they treat some others who they're not just invested in casually.
And I think part of that too would be, as an individual, you need to know what you want
Yes.
Yeah.
and be clear of your vision and your
Personal
direction.
standards,
Because if you don't know what your direction is, it's hard for you to know who can fit into that.
Yes.
Mhm.
The alignment will be off because you are not certain,
Mhm.
right? So we have almost 14 years of marriage.
Yes.
How many kids?
Well, we have 3 from a
A
marriage.
total of 4.
Total of 4, but 3, so let's say 4.
Yes.
All right. And well, Pastor, how long are you now in full time?
2017, 8 years.
7, 4, 3 years.
7
7 years.
Full-time.
The 7 out of that 14.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now, please, we want to have an understanding as to there is marriage and putting in the work as a couple, and then you become parents, and then you still have life outside of family.
Yeah.
How
You try
do
to have
you,
like those.
how do you really balance all of these balls without allowing your relationship to suffer? Because I think that is one of the main things, that sometimes persons, when they become parents, for instance, they forget the couple.
Connection.
Can I be honest?
Uh-huh.
That's what I intend to do. There are times when it's not balanced.
Yeah.
There are times when it's
Crazy.
crazy, to say the least. Yeah.
We forget one another.
Yeah, there was times when
So how did you deal with feeling forgotten as a woman? You know, women sometimes we just
ask him how I dealt with it.
Okay. Feeling forgotten in the mix of things.
Yeah. I think it is important to prioritize something. Earlier in our marriage, we said we're not gonna forget our intimacy. We're gonna have date nights. We're gonna do this.
How long did that last? After the first baby, that's it.
It was a balance.
I remember in our first year of marriage, we used to have candlelit dinners at home.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Outdoor dinners.
Outdoors. And
Yeah.
do this sort of thing. And you see, I think it is important to do those things. But know that it will always be like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to have an expectation is unrealistic.
Yeah.
However, when you be purposeful to doing something,
Yeah.
you may not be able to do it once a week like you used to do it before,
Right.
or even once a month, but
Make time.
make time to do it sometime and kind of rekindle that fire.
Right.
Because, and I have to say, my wife particularly is a very understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
know-
just keep that, like, you're not you know,
I know. I mean, sometimes she would have to get very serious and say, "Come on,
Yeah.
this is too much. We need to do something. We need to take a trip. We need to go somewhere. Send each other by their grandparents."
Thank God for grandparents.
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Thank God. In particular for my in-laws, I am the only person from my family.
Yeah.
Okay, so they only have one set of grandparents in St. Vincent.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
And they are an amazing family. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
So that family support is vital
Very important.
if to keep the connection strong. And but the most important thing is that you be purposeful. I think, I mean, I'm not really good at it, but I think planning special times is very important. I'm the spontaneous kind of person. I would call it, say, let's do something.
And I'm like, what? No?
Because you're thinking of all
I
of
prefer
the
the
things.
plan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, okay, the children have to get picked up. What we're going to do now? I have work to do. I have the house has to
But
do.
don't you give in sometimes?
Oh, yes, of course.
Spontaneous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I might give up and I might fuss it when I go to it. And then I have to end up laughing because he's like, you don't want to spend time with your husband.
Yeah.
And you know, that kind of thing. But you asked earlier how I dealt with it. And at first I wasn't understanding.
Yeah.
I think it is my nature to be giving and to serve. But I did say to him at one time, I said, I give and I need to receive.
Yeah.
So I need you to make an effort to do certain things. And sometimes it's a hard conversation to have,
Yeah.
right? And we while my husband deals with confrontation very well, I don't always deal with it well.
Yeah.
Even though I want to have the conversation, I want to be the one doing the confronting. I want to be confronted.
Yeah.
There's a give and take in that area, but we make it work, and it's also about being correct. Because when there are times when I don't think it will reach him, I could always reach out to God.
Yeah.
And then the Lord reaches him on my behalf.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding again. It goes back to our relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
As much as you could depend on your spouse, you still need the Lord in the midst of it to kind of help you. There are times when the Lord has to tell you, stop talking. You don't need to respond.
Right.
You feel that conviction in your spirit. Okay, you need to stop talking now. You don't have to complain about it. You don't have to speak about it.
Right.
I will get it. I will deal with it.
Yeah.
And the Lord eventually does.
So it's important to spend time and still keep dating each other. Keep
as much as
loving
you
each other
can.
as much as you
Yes.
can in a realistic way.
Yes.
Because over the years, plus with children, there are other responsibilities,
Yes.
there are other things that we have to think about. I think one of the major issues that persons tend to have after a while in marriage is probably finance, being able to manage all of the
Yes.
needs and the demands and all of these things. And sometimes that in itself can put a real strain on a marriage. How do you work around financial issues? Is it that I know one couple said, well, we know who's better at it, so we just lean on that person? Or how do you work through
Let's
finances?
talk about
I know as somebody who talks to my people quite often. That is one of the sticking points.
Oh, yeah.
is money.
how do we deal with it?
But I know it is something that is a challenge for other people. For us, we say, well, we have a plan. In terms of where we want to be at a particular time. Because when we marry, we don't have our own. That's a big financial issue.
Right.
That there are bills and so on. So I think my own experiences, I trust the Lord. Now, my wife would say, oh, you don't talk to me enough about this, or you don't tell me enough about this, or you don't share with me, or you don't involve me enough.
And what would be the main reason for that from your end? Because there are a lot of males who would feel that they need to take care of things and they don't share. So why?
You see, I think that really truly you don't have a clear responsibility.
Okay.
You can't be saying, well, I'm going to use such and such money to do this and such money, because you don't have all the answers then and there.
All the resources.
All the resources, but you personally, I'm trusting in the Lord to come through,
Right.
at a particular time, and He never disappoints. And I would tell my wife, don't worry about it, you will get taken care of. Don't worry about it, you will get taken care of. But then that is not easy. That is much easier said than done.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Right. So I evolved from being a working outside of the home mom and wife. So now I work from home with a few clients, and nearly I work in the home.
Right.
Children in the home. And sometimes one of my biggest challenges as a person who's accustomed to taking care of myself is having to say, oh, honey, I need this amount of money for certain.
Right.
I'm like, wait, I have to tell.
Yeah.
And it's a pride. That one is a definite pride thing, and we've dealt with it, talked about it, and we continue to talk about it because something might slip right back into that kind of behavior. And he said, just say what you need. And I'm like, why do I have to say? I have to ask all the time. But then I am understanding that there is a grace given to couples when they deal with different things. There's much more.
So we were just speaking about finance, which is one of the hot topics when it comes to marriages and all relationships. And Keisha, you were talking about, which is, I think, is such an important thing. When women sometimes have to go and ask, especially when you're coming from this independent mindset, to say, I need this.
Right.
And you said there was an issue of being prideful.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
I was just trying to let people know that there are times when you will feel challenged by having to ask your husband. I know the question he asked me, why? I am your husband. I am here to do that. But the thing is, when you're custom managing, handling your own money, you need to let us ask you.
Yeah. So then persons might jump in to say, yeah, why is a wife asking? Shouldn't you have one account and shouldn't you be able to be free to just simply use the finance?
Yes, there's that, and then there are the daily things where you're not going to, you want to run into town. You want to go down the road quickly, come back up, you don't want to go to the bank. Say that. So you say, I have $100. And he's right thing. Once you have need, but because like he did say earlier, sometimes he just has to figure out how he's managing it to the whole family.
Right.
Right? And then I might need to get my hair done and I don't have everything that I think I need.
Yeah.
But I need to buy some new braids. I need to just give me an extra. He's like, "You're sure? Okay, cool. Alright, whatever you need." And that's basically what's happening.
I understand.
There's sometimes in us as a woman an unwillingness to be weaker.
Or to appear weaker.
To appear weaker.
To appear weaker.
To appear weaker. Thank you very much for that correction.
And yeah, I can understand that because there's been so many different debates about whether you should have one account, should you have your individual accounts, should you do joint, and I think these are things that each household will have to decide on.
Yes.
And I don't want to look at it as a blanket thing to say this is what should apply. Exactly.
Yeah, because sometimes there's not enough to have a pool.
Right.
There's not enough to have something where you can say you can dip from. You have to move things around sometimes. And everybody's situation is different. And at different points in our life, our situation will be different.
Yeah,
that's it.
But you always encourage me, have your own little hide away something cute. You have to hide away.
Listen, sometimes, right, we have to know ourselves and we have to know our spouses. Sometimes we have a situation where, because she's the type of person, if she needs it, she's going to get it.
Yeah.
If it's needed, it's going to get it. But sometimes you might have to make a hard choice to say, no, I can't get that now. That would have to wait something else.
Yeah. Something
more important. Even though you think you need it now, you just can't afford it now. So every time is different.
Yeah. I mean, 14 years, almost 14 years. What would have been in your mind, and I guess it might be a different answer for either of you, what would have been one of the major highlights and one of the major challenges that you think you had to deal with?
Oh, challenge. Okay.
So let's start with the challenge and then tell me what was your major highlight.
You know what's funny? I can't remember the challenges.
I'll start. One of the biggest challenges in my life. You see, I'm not an anxious person, but I think I know I have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And there was a point in our marriage when I had lost a child.
Right.
And that presented a major challenge because it was unexpected.
Right.
And it came at a very unexpected time, around Christmas time when you have, and then I have all sorts of plans and so on. And I really didn't know how things are going to be. It turns out that I had to even leave Siblings for a short while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was initially would have been for like a 3-month period, but I stayed it lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 3 months. 3 months would have been too long.
Too long. You can't do this.
And
the children were young?
Young.
Oh,
And I remember spending the first night away from my family, and I literally cried. I said, what am I doing here? My family is there. But I needed to do that because I have a responsibility to provide for my family, and it was a challenge at the time. And as we said, finances most than not present the biggest challenge.
So how did you manage that time when he had to leave. It was Christmas. He had the kids.
It was hard. But at the same time, again, I was very grateful for his family because they stepped in. His younger brother would come help me pick up the children. Well, all of them are younger because he's the oldest. But his brothers helped.
Keep them so.
Yeah, they made sure that I had groceries, anything I needed. Just call his mother, his dad. They were very, very
family
caring.
support.
Family support made a difference. If I was here alone without any support, it would have been nerve-wracking.
You see, the things when you get married, I believe it's two families come together.
Exactly, and persons tend not to look at it.
I have a big that if we were living in Trinidad, I believe it would have been the same because when we go there, I mean, our family, I think our family loves me more than
they do.
But it is that family relationship is so important rather than living in an isolated society. So when challenges come, it makes it a little easier to bear.
And I mean, some persons might say that, oh, well, you probably have a good family, but I don't have a good family. But the thing is, sometimes it's just a matter that your support can come from different spaces.
That's right.
And it's your willingness to actually ask for the help and be vulnerable. Be vulnerable because oftentimes people like to suffer inside.
Yeah, man, big, strong, right?
They're too ashamed and part of it too is, something that I always say to persons, there is no shame in living within your means.
None whatsoever.
We always like to keep up with what everyone else is doing. But you have to learn what it is because I remember growing up, my family, my parents would told us some stories. Now sometimes you just have some bread and some water, you put sugar inside of it, and you eat it and you go to bed and nobody needs to know what is happening on the outside because everybody's happy and they're contented.
Yes.
But oftentimes we want to make things appear what it isn't. So what have been the highlights?
We've had a good bit of them. Family events and occasions. Both of the children.
Yes.
And then, so our oldest two, he wasn't allowed inside based on the legal situations in Trinidad with fathers not doing the man's class before.
Right.
But he came just in time for births and stuff. But the last one, he was there. He helped deliver her in St. Vincent, and it was just after we
and Pastor didn't faint?
No, please. He should have been a soldier, right? He was there, and she was born in like 2 minutes, just one push.
Yeah.
Which was not like the others. So I was wondering if this because he was inside of there.
Maybe.
Yeah. You want to meet him, Daddy.
So she came out like, shh, quickly. He cut the cord. He was right there, and knowing, and he loves children. He loves his children. He loves everybody's children, and seeing him as a father.
Yeah.
Even when he has to discipline them, it's because he loves them. He's a really good father.
Yeah.
And until I didn't grow up with my dad, I always talk to my children about the benefit and the privilege they have by having him there. And the type of father that he is a definite highlight in our relationship. Really.
I think the highlights for me are so many that in terms of every day you have different things that you're so grateful for.
Yeah.
Seeing my wife Matteo, just seeing how she deals with different things.
Listen, I'm looking at both of you this afternoon here as we speak, and there is a definite chemistry, the connection, the touches, the looks, and all of these things. And I mean, that is something to be commended because so often persons just have a shell of a relationship, but there isn't really a substance, the love isn't really there.
Yeah.
But I really must commend you guys.
It's that friendship. That's helpful. That was that friendship. Because we genuinely like to hang out with each other, right?
Yeah.
We do. So
and then to the honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty in who you are.
Yes.
Making yourself open.
Yeah.
And not because we live in a society or we live in a situation where people want to be the one to impose themselves, and then people don't want to be hurt.
Right.
So you kind of guard yourself against getting hurt. So there's a barrier even within marriage, which I think, how on earth could that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, there should be no barrier. We try our best to.
Yeah.
It's not that there is never friction. Of course, there's friction. My wife is a stubborn. She would like to hear that.
Listen, I am stubborn. Like I said, I struggle with a little bit of pride in certain areas, and I am also. I would prefer that you say strong-willed.
Strong-willed, yeah,
right. Thank you. And there are times when I want from him what it is he's not comfortable giving, or he doesn't give naturally, which is like a lot of communication. I am extroverted, and he is a high functioning introverted person.
Yeah. High functioning introvert. Yeah. But we learned some terms. That's all about the spiritual Very good. Okay, high functioning introvert.
Yeah, so when you meet him, you will know he's an introvert. But trust me, he doesn't need anyone around him to replenish.
Yeah, right.
I do well with company and
teamwork and stuff. I'm a high functioning introvert.
Yeah. But so, and then it's something you want more, like, tell me things, and you're like, but I'm here, I'm listening, what else, you know? But I'm learning to appreciate more than anything else his faithfulness.
Yeah.
And so even when there are things that I might want, I kind of check myself and say, oh, but he is here.
Right.
He's coming home every night. He's working hard for us.
Yeah.
He is involved in homework time as much as he can be. And even though as a mother, it's usually I really heavier burden on with the children, he has a heavier burden on providing for the house. And so it's we work as partners,
as a team.
And as a team for that. And I like him. He's a cool guy.
I love that. We're going to take our last break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you guys, each of you, if you have to give 5 tips each that would speak to someone who is, one, either looking to get into a relationship, get married. What is it you can say in terms of preparation and you can't say what to expect in a marriage. You have an idea how to prepare yourself for marriage and to, as you rightly said, be the person that you need to be the best version of yourself for whomever. Been having quite a stimulating, very entertaining conversation with Pastor Roy and Keisha George. Boy, I tell you, I have learned some words that I have never heard of before, and I'm going to be using it because I now see myself as a high-functioning introvert, and we learned that Pastor was a what?
He was not.
No, I did not.
He didn't want to be.
He didn't want to be. All right? But if you're missing what that was, go back to the start of the interview and you will hear that word, okay? That term. And as we wrap up, it's so important to hear directly from them, and they're going to provide some tips for anyone who might be, if you're on the verge of getting married, you're considering what marriage might be like, you're worried, you're concerned, whatever it is, they're going to share some of their top tips, 5 each, what they would suggest that you take on board as you begin navigating the whole idea of marriage and life with a spouse.
All right, so it's my privilege to be first as a lady. So I hope I can get 5 things, but I would like to think that if you're considering marriage, you have already been considering your communication level, how well you communicate. And there are ways to say things without being disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy, because sometimes your understanding of what is disrespectful is different from what your spouse may understand. So it's important to get to understand not just how you communicate, but how your spouse communicates. So that's 1. 2, I think it's always very important to know yourself, to appreciate who God made you to be, and not be easily compromised with your personal standard. So if it is you think And this is important to know before you get married. If you think that that person is asking you to compromise who you are as an individual, you really need to put slowly brakes on the marital commitments. Mm-hmm. 3, my mother-in-law says to all newly engaged women that she meets and has to interact with, be prepared to have good sex. And listen, she is a very dynamic woman, and she encourages us because she says we as women sometimes we take that for granted, that men need a way of coming.
And we might be too Christian too.
And we might be like, there's a video I saw the other day, if I don't mind, let me share with you. The woman wanted the man to pray before having sex.
Of course.
And he said, but he prayed for the food already. She said, no, pray for the sex. So that's not something we need to talk about. We're not doing that's the that's 3. 4, spend time preparing yourself for house management.
Yeah.
For family, for group management. And it's not too late really to start working on creating schedules for yourself. It's a struggle for me, so I think schedules help people who are not naturally inclined to be very disciplined when it comes to certain things. Create schedules for yourself and don't be ashamed to practice it, execute it. That's 4.
Yeah.
And 5, have other Christian couples that you can be accountable to. For the wives, have Christian wives. I have a group of friends from across the Caribbean who I met through Bible school. I have one over here at St. Vincent. And whenever I feel like if I'm being frustrating or frustrated, these are Christian women who I could speak to, who would guide me, who would encourage me, who would pray with me. So have accountability partners as much as possible when it comes to same marriage, if that is possible.
Yeah.
You know, really good fight.
Yeah, that was really good fight.
That's good. I think first of all, Scripture says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And as people of God, fear the Lord, trust in the Lord, depend on the Lord. And if you're looking at us and you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, there is where you start. To put anything else before that is putting the cat before the horse. You'll just continue to frustrate yourself. And you may say, oh, but there are other people who don't know the Lord and who don't have a relationship with the Lord, but they seem to be happy. The key word there is see. Because we don't know truly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's important that you understand, love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. Love Him before anything else. And the second one is close to that. Especially if you're looking for a spouse, especially if you're hoping to get married. Maybe you're in a relationship, maybe you're not in a relationship. Look for somebody who is in love with Jesus first before they're in love with you. Look for somebody who loves the Lord more than they love you. Because if they love you more than you love the Lord and you disappoint them, then that relationship is done. But because that relationship with the Lord is foremost, then they could find it in their heart to forgive you. You know, and you can find it in their heart to forgive them. I think thirdly, we talk about marriage and we look for what the other person have to complement us. And I think we spoke about that earlier. But you see, what I believe marriage is a selfless thing. If you're not willing to forego yourself a lot of the times and look to fulfill the need of your spouse, of your wife, of your husband, you're fighting a losing battle. Too much of us are selfish in today's day and age. We only focus on ourselves, getting all we can, carrying all we get, but sitting all we can. And we don't want to share, we don't want to give, we don't see how much what we can do sacrificially.
Right.
You know, and then As my wife said, fourth is communication. Your communication is vital. Um, Expressing yourself as to what you want, how you feel. Sometimes we feel things, and no, they're not real, but we don't express it.
True.
And the feeling is there, and it's as though the person should know how you feel, and you ain't talk to them.
Yeah,
I think that's really unfair, you know.
it is unfair.
So communication is key. And if we don't communicate, we would not succeed, particularly in marriage. And lastly, I believe enjoy each other's company. Have fun, laugh a lot. You know, do things together. Watch a TV show together. Read a book together. You know, and talk about things and have light moments. Everything doesn't have to be so serious and hard. You know, touch and so on. I mean, there's a lot to be said about love languages and so on. And we must know one another, know each other, and have fun with each other.
Can I add something? Yeah. When we bring children into the mix of it, it's important that the children see the way you. So there are things that I have to correct because my daughters would say, "Mommy, why you say it like that?" Oh, Daddy, you ain't tired trouble, Mommy. Or you know, you have different things where the way we communicate may not be appropriate or healthy, and so our children are
they will call us out. They will call us out.
And they call us out when they see certain things. But we also need to remember that what they see impacts them. And how they would repeat and basically replicate. So when you have children, make sure that they see that you're doing well. You're making an effort, and you're teasing, you're joking around, but I don't see that you are taking the relationship seriously. That's it.
Yeah. Listen, those tips need to be in a book. You need to actually, pen these so that persons can have the practical tips, because as much as persons often go into counseling before marriage and stuff like that, I think within that period sometimes persons will say, oh, that never registered. I was so geared towards getting the wedding, and it's only after a lot of things start when the dust settles. But these are practical tips I want to encourage anybody. Please, apply them, especially if you're thinking about marriage. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We have to always make sure, because so often we go into church to do the actual ceremony and we say we lighting the unity candle and the tree sprinkles and all of these things. But when the life begins to life,
I tell you,
oftentimes we leave God in the background. And you need to make sure that He is the center, because He's the one who's going to hold it all together for you. All right? So thank you so much for being a part of the One Step podcast. I want to say thank you, Pastor Keisha,
Thank you for
being here today. It was such an honor, such a blessing, such a joy. Like, I enjoyed it, and I'm sure the viewers enjoyed it as well. So until the very next one, take care, much love, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for
thank you. That was fun.